Hello and welcome to the Ekahau School Safety Solution demonstration. I wanted to show you our vision application and how it would apply within the school safety environment that we're presenting. So what we have is a couple of, you're looking at a map that kind of shows a typical layout of a floor of a building. You've got different icons moving around, different people represented and so forth. Well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of our B4 badge tags and I'm going to pull on the safety switch on it. What this is going to do is this is going to initiate a lockdown. Let me turn that off right quick. But what you can notice real quick is if you can hear the tones, I've actually got additional badge tags, which is notifying my school resource officer or safety officer or other designee within the facility. And it's also a single teacher, because this is a school lockdown event, very important, very notification. So you can see in just a matter of a few seconds, I've been able to initiate and notify everybody at the same time of a lockdown, so they can of course go into the process and procedures that the school system dictates. So you see that I accepted the alert. On this page I can track that person and message them and that kind of stuff, but what's really important about this is it notifies everybody right away. So what I want to do is I'm going to put in here, and I'm just going to say this is a test because I want to keep my documentation accurate. And then I'm going to comment and close. You can see that the status changes, giving a different kind of visual representation of what it is. So we created the event. We notified all of the staff members that need to be notified of what's going on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the Events tab, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to see that this event showed up here at 12:16. Steve Marinero had pulled the tag. What I can also do over here is I can see where it was located and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to classify that event. This was a scheduled test. You can see that there's other events in here if the police were called, depending upon what it was. In this instance, you could also have this same event actually notify outside entities such as your local sheriff's department or city police department, depending upon if you choose to have that set up. So I'm going to save that event. From this page, I can also go back in and do a forensic replay, which is going to show the people that are within my environment. You have different tags moving around the area being able to do that. So you can replay the event and see where things are happening. So once this is done, there's other things that can be done. You can see other events on here like medical emergency and stuff like that. So just to kind of show you a little bit of a difference of how it's going to be, I'm going to take the same tag, Steve Marinero, and I'm going to press the blue button, which is one of our configurable buttons on the tag, and that's going to initiate a medical emergency. What this is really good for is if you have a staff member or teacher that is in a classroom and a student has a seizure or falls out or passes out or does something, then that teacher can attend to that medical emergency and notify who needs to be notified, such as a school nurse, a resource officer. Maybe you have an advanced set of people that or teachers that are medically trained higher above than the other that would get this message that could respond as needed. So I'm going to come in here as well and say this is also a test. Like I said, I want to keep my documentation current. So you have the same ability, and all this stuff is in here. You can also see that now it shows up, same information, all the same characteristics. I'm going to come in here and say this is a scheduled test as well. Now, once I go through this process and we have created the event, we've notified the necessary parties, we've documented it based upon what I just did. This also gives you the ability to come back later on and follow up and actually close the event, documenting what happened. So once this is done, the ability to go back and run reports on that. So if I come over here to my reports module, I've already got it over to the alarm tabs connection. So if I run the school lockdown report and I want to see what's being done, I can select a time range. I'm going to do today, and you can see that all the events that we've done, which have all been during this testing process for this, shows you when it was, the time it was initiated, the time it was accepted and closed, and so forth. But it also gives you the ability to know what was there, the alarm type. Was it a real event? Was the police called? Things like that. But then you also have the ability to have the documentation. Hopefully you'll never have to use this alarm, but having this in here and having this documentation certainly will validate any testing that you do. It'll validate how you go through the process and see in the event that you do have a real event how everybody reacted using the forensic replay. So looking at the medical emergency, which is probably hopefully not going to be used very often as well, but most often is going to be, of course, used more than the other. So if I run this report, you can see that you have the medical emergency, who initiated them, where they were at, and all that kind of stuff, as well as the information. So you can see that I had a scheduled test, but I also had a regular event where the parents were contacted because of a medical reason and the student was sent home sick. So if I click on this, of course, it just basically gives you the information. Now, any of these reports that we have within our model give you the ability to export out as a PDF or an Excel format. It also gives you the ability to email. And it's also important to know that any of these reports can be scheduled. For instance, if I wanted to go in and schedule the medical emergency and I wanted to send that to the principal of the school, for instance, every Monday morning, so that they would just have a report that says, here's all the occurrences that I had and so forth. You have the ability to schedule that report. Now let me come back over to Vision, and I want to show you a couple of additional things, because what we've talked about so far is the response, events that have happened that have required assistance by somebody. There's other things that our software can do utilizing the exact same hardware infrastructure and everything, and what I've set up here is kind of a demonstration to kind of show student interactions by the resource officer or other security designee. So when I click on the blue or red button within the safety tag, or the person within the safety tag, I create what I've considered a violent encounter or a non-violent encounter. What this does at first glance is, let's say I'm a school resource officer and I'm just out walking the halls making sure everything's good, and I come across a fight. Well, how do I document that occurrence? How do I document that fight and or things that are being done? Typically, I think what would happen is the school resource officer would break it up, they'd carry the individuals to the office and let them deal with it. Well, that doesn't necessarily justify what the security officer did, or the initiation, or the time stamping, or where it happened, and all that kind of stuff. So what I do here is, if I press the red button for a violent encounter, click on this, and I can see that my security agent had accepted this alarm, and when I look at the responses, it says that when he arrived on scene, determined that a student had stolen $50 from the lunchroom cashier. So but that doesn't necessarily initiate a violent. But what happened is, when I approached the student, he was combative and resisted my contacting him. So what I ultimately did was call the parents, transport him to juvenile detention center. So this gave me where the incident occurred, whether it's the lunchroom, whether it's the classroom, whether it's an outside area of the facility by vending machines, break area, whatever. I have that documented, of the timestamps and all that stuff, as well as the closure aspect. So if I have a nonviolent occurrence, same exact principle. I come over here and I can choose what things happened, go through the process. Now, here's where it's really beneficial in the information gathering and the analytics. So if I come over here to the reports again and I look at something called security encounters. So let me run this report. I'm going to do it again for today. And I'm going to notice that this has a lot of occurrences based upon the security officer, where we're at, where all this happened, the timestamps and so forth, but it also has the alarm types, the comments, and stuff like that. So if I look at here where I say student discipline contacts, I pull this up, I can go through exactly what the officer's explanation of the event was. Now, this is what's really nice about this fact, is this report is could be sent to the police chief if you were actually a school resource officer. It could be sent to the school board of attendants, or the principal, depending upon who you need to have this information, and this could all be done automatically through the report scheduler. So what we touched on was really just a couple of basic functionality of the alerting and event reporting. One other thing I'd also like to touch on is our messaging capability. So through our B4 tags, which this is what they look like, you have the ability within our solution to go through and send events or send information. For instance, if in Bill Sparr's sports staff, if he was needed to come to the office for something, instead of overhead paging or using a more expensive communication device, I have the ability to do that. But more so also within teachers' classrooms. If I have, little student needs to come to the office to be checked out from his parents, instead of overhead paging or overhead paging the class, I could simply check on that person, type in the message that they need, please send, if I could type today, please send student to the office, and that way it's a very pointed message that goes to the staff member without having to be doing it. This could also be used for mass communication, such as, there's potential bad weather in the area. You could notify every staff member or teacher without necessarily being disruptive or exciting the students of the event. So you definitely have increased functionality within the solution above and beyond just remote alerting or stuff like that. So what I would take away from this is kind of consider that what we have with our badge tags, which are mobile throughout the environment, this can act as a panic button. So when you pull on this alarm and you create that panic button and you alert somebody, this is mobile with you. So if your teacher is in the event going from the class to the gym class and they're bringing the students, or they're going to lunchroom, and for instance, if a teacher is bringing a class to lunch, for instance, and a student falls out, passes out, has a seizure, whatever, in that way, you know, physically connected panic buttons don't necessarily work in that environment because you can't have them everywhere. So having a mobile panic button that stays with the teacher, he or she can now press the button and call for, you know, nursing help or medical help or whatever from wherever she is within the campus. As we're looking at the map, you have the different ability to go through. You have different floors, different areas, the entire facility is mapped. So whether they're in their classroom or they're in the hallway or they're in the gym class or lunchroom, you have the ability of immediately knowing where that staff member is and where the occurrence takes place. All documented, all reportable. So I'd like to go ahead and thank you for your time today. If you feel like you would love to find out some additional information, we would encourage you to visit our website at www.ekahau.com, and please click on the Contact Us page, and we'll definitely be getting back in touch with you. Once again, thanks for the time.